Hi, my name is Herb Montgomery,
And I'm Alicia Johnston.
and we are just talking. If you're used to tuning into this channel and seeing me and Todd, or Todd and I, or seeing me's the grammar, right? Seeing me. You wouldn't say
hmm
seeing I.
Or
So
yeah, Todd and me.
Todd and myself. Whatever the proper grammar is there. It's not Todd and Herb this week. It's Herb and Alicia. Alicia is our guest for the last two episodes and this episode and one more. Alicia's an old friend of mine, and she and I go way back, and I have always wanted to do something with her, and her insights are just stellar. You're going to appreciate her perspective. If you're new to this show, each week we take a look at the upcoming weekend's lectionary reading from the Gospels. Our goal is to talk about those readings in the context of love and inclusion and social justice. Our hope is that our talking will be just talking, as in justice, but that also something will be said during this time that will inspire us to do more together than just talking in our own justice work. So, Alicia, this week we're looking at Luke 16:19 through 31, the parable of the rich man and Lazarus. Anything to kick us off? Any thoughts? What have you spent some time in pastoral ministry,
Uh-huh.
and I'm saying this is a famous passage. Let's start with the traditional interpretation, or the traditional what's more mostly what's normally what's the word I'm looking for? What is
Emphasized?
typically, yeah, what is typically said
Yeah.
about this parable, and whether you think that's enough or it falls short.
Well, I mean, find a lot of times when you read evangelical writers talking about the parable, one of the things they like to emphasize is that hell is very real
Oh yeah.
and that the experience of hell is very real and that Jesus was using this parable in order to teach the doctrine of hell. Like I kind of hear
Mm.
evangelicals say that a lot. The church that Herb and I were both pastors, or you were a speaker in Adventist church, mostly talks about why this parable doesn't teach that hell is real. So a lot of times that's kind of, at least not in the eternal suffering kind of a way. So a lot of times that's what people focus on in this passage,
Hmm.
instead of what actually is the point of the passage, because that's super uncomfy.
Yeah, exactly. The point of the passage is economic justice, right? But it's kind of like if we were to paint a picture of um, this parable, if we were to capture this parable in like a painting, and people argued over whether the sky was blue or like a shade of purple. Like it's such a marginal element of the painting, you know what I'm saying? Of the
Yeah.
story. Let's argue over this marginal thing over here because the centerpiece
Uh-huh.
really does challenge our world too much.
Yeah. Yeah. And
It's
and when
really not a
you
parable about hell, whether hell is real or not.
yeah, when you look at like how are you supposed to approach and understand parables, like you're supposed to look at the main point of it because it's like it's a story that is told to tell a point, not a story that's told to like it's not because the details of the story are accurate. Like it's a parable. It's a made up story. It's not about an actual person who sowed seeds. There might be parts of it that are real sometimes or not others, but the point of it is like actually the point of it. And one of the things that you want to focus on there is like, why is it told? What is the story emphasizing? What's the context in which it appears? What's around it? Things like that. Like, what's the point of this thing?
Jeremiah's and I'm looking for the reference right now, and I'll give it as soon as I find it again. But he makes an interesting statement. Well, I need to look it up a different way. But he makes the statement that this was a well known um, parable, well known story that circulated among Jesus's culture, but it was typically the two people that were being contrasted was the rich tax collector or the poor Torah scholar.
Oh my goodness.
So it's about tax collector versus Torah scholarship. You don't make as much money being a scholar of the Torah, but
Uh-huh.
they're the righteous one in the story. And then you've
Huh.
got the rich tax collector that's complicit with Rome. That is
Right.
that's how the story was told outside of outside of the gospels in Jesus's community. And it's interesting that Jesus drops all that other stuff and says, nope, it's just about rich and poor, plain and simple. Just forget the Torah, tax collector, all those layers you're trying to pile up and muddy the water with. It's not about
Right.
religious versus secular. It's it's actually just raw poverty versus in exorbitant wealth.
But like it would have been a little more in your face if Matthew would have done that versus Luke, though, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because like Luke's audience is more like Greek and Roman.
Right.
So
Right.
actually would have been a little less offensive to them that way.
Yes. Yes.
It's
Yes, very
interesting. If
much so.
Matthew would have told it that way, it would have like been one of those stone Jesus moments.
Correct.
But it is also consistent with Luke's approach throughout his gospel of just really Luke cares deeply about the poor, the marginalized, the like women, Gentiles, the whole
Anyone that's marginalized.
anyone who's marginalized.
So the
Yeah.
reference for what I just said, I finally found it was Jeremiah's his book Parables. It's on page J. Jeremiah's his book Parables, page 183. If
Hmm.
anybody's needing that reference. Took me a minute to find it, sorry. But yeah, Luke, I love the fact that Luke distills it down to an economics issue.
Yeah. No, I love that too. Um, yeah, it takes away the yeah, and it takes there's nowhere to hide in that, right? There's nowhere to be like, oh, it's about anything other than money, like who's rich and
Mm-hmm,
who's poor.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I mean the Jesus's society was anything but univocal. I mean, they were Jewish, but even Jewish communities are not univocal. You know what I mean? They're not monolithic. You've got the uh, people in Jesus's day that believe Jews that did believe in an afterlife. You know, having been influenced by Hellenism, and then there were those who still wondered whether there was really an afterlife. And we know that you know, if we go far enough back, it's not intrinsic to Jewish wisdom that there even is an afterlife,
No.
right?
Right.
So we come into this, and Jesus is taking a well-known trope
Hmm.
for those who did believe in an afterlife,
Hmm.
that whoever was being marginalized and pushed to the undersides in this world, that in the afterlife there was going to be a great reversal. And Jesus jumps on
Yeah.
that and uses that to try to motivate his own listeners to economic justice today. I would love it, um, because I happen to think that atheists resonate with the ethics of the Jesus story, right? There's such a thing as called Christian
Hmm.
atheism, right? Where atheists who don't buy into the supernatural parts of the story still resonate with the ethics that are promoted by the story. Or
Hmm.
humanists don't need the threat of an afterlife
Hmm.
to have compassion on people today.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, and honestly, this was their worldview. I get it. Jesus is using the you know what the tools that are at his disposal to try to move his listeners, meeting
Yeah.
them where they're at, right?
Yeah.
And probably where he was at too. But wouldn't it be nice if we didn't need the threat of a post-mortem great reversal to have compassion on people today? We could just have empathy today.
Oh yeah, no, it would be very nice. But I think all of us at sometimes are like, hey, this is in your best interest too to do the right thing. You
Mm-hmm.
know, those kind of arguments, I think we all make them sometimes and we're all motivated by them sometimes. But yeah, like at the base, you know, it's that just like care for human suffering and care for the poor and care for justice and righteousness, which same word in Greek and Hebrew. Justice and righteousness are not separate concepts in the Bible. So yeah, like it would be nice if that was like kind of all it took. Like that's the ideal. And I think if you think like, you know, the character of Jesus, the teachings of Jesus, the thing that's really being pointed to here is not like, hey, be good to the poor so that you don't end up suffering
Burning.
later. Yeah,
Right.
that's like not the ultimate point. That's that's not the end goal. Yeah,
Right.
the end goal is the morality and the ethics of how people in our community are treated.
Yeah, and this fits into Luke's emphasis too. I mean, Luke starts out with Mary's Magnificat, right, where the hungry are filled with good things, the rich are sent away empty. The next thing we see is Jesus making his announcement in Luke 4, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor, liberation for those that are oppressed. We get to Luke 6, the Sermon on the Plain, blessed are the poor, but woe to you who are rich. There's still
Hmm.
this binary,
Hmm.
polarization happening here. We get to Luke 12, and Jesus is saying, sell all your goods, your superfluous wealth, liquidate that and give it to the poor. We get to the story in, I think it's Luke 19, with Zacchaeus, who's one that actually did it, right? We follow this all the way through, and we get to the book of Acts, where people are actually the wealthy, the rich men in this story,
Hmm.
they're actually liquidating their assets and sharing with those the Lazaruses in the church.
Yeah.
And Acts 4 says that there was not a needy person among them. They had
Hmm.
effectively eliminated poverty. So I don't know what Jesus meant by the poor you'll always have with you, but at least in the early church, they didn't, right?
Hmm.
They found a
Hmm.
way for it not to happen. And so I look at that. I also find it interesting that the poor in this story are humanized. It's the
Hmm.
poor who are given a name.
Hmm.
The rich man is left nameless. We still will never know who the rich man was in this story. But the
Hmm.
poor guy, oh, no, his name was Lazarus. He was a
Hmm.
human being.
Yeah. Oh, that is
So I think it fits with the context, the overall arch of Luke's economic teachings.
yeah. Yeah, it's like the poor man actually is the one who's important in the story,
Yeah.
not the rich man, because it's the one who's poor who gets given a name.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
So I mean, and again, I was talking to a group last weekend about this. We look at the book of Acts and we talk about how the wealthy in their faith community liquidated their assets and gave it to those who had needs so that poverty was eliminated. And that's great if we talk about creating communities that do that. But what if we take it one step further and say, well, the early church didn't have any power in the Roman Empire to shape their society, but we live in a democracy. We
Hmm.
we do to a degree. What
Hmm.
if we work towards a society where the wealth of those who were ultra wealthy?
Right.
I mean, I just saw a thing today where the top 6 people in the United States, the top wealthiest people in the United States, have what, $6.4 trillion their combined net worth, which is more than the lower 50% of the population in the United States,
Yeah.
right? So what if
Yeah,
we
which
work
is like
toward,
what, 175 million people, almost
yeah,
like 200,
yeah.
about 200 million. Yeah.
And so
Uh-huh.
you've got what if we work towards a society that, and I'm not talking
Yeah.
about like a Christian nationalist theocracy. I'm just talking about the economic justice in acts. What if we
Hmm.
work towards a society where those who have more than they will possibly ever use in their lifetime, what if some of that was redistributed to those whose needs aren't being met right now? We could
Yeah.
eliminate poverty in the US.
I think what you run into is people saying, "Oh, that's fine, but just like do that on an individual level. Like you should
Right.
give like what
Right.
you have." And like I think that that's not a solution. Like if you actually look at how many people would have to give enough money to create a real social, like a real genuine social safety net in this country for people, it's not doable without like those who are benefiting disproportionately from this economy that we have in this country, actually having to also return disproportionately.
That's right.
Like, because I feel like sometimes that whole like, well, you got to do it as an individual frame. I feel like what that does sometimes is almost pretend like we don't have a system. It's
There's not a
almost
system that's creating poverty.
right, as if like everyone's just a lone wolf going out into the wilderness and taking the thing and bringing it home. And that's like how people get rich, is they're just better at hunting in the
Hmm.
wilderness that we're all hunting in. But that's actually not true. The people who are ultra wealthy in this country they could have that level of success in a different country and they would not be as wealthy because they're benefiting from the system that we have. They're
Hmm.
benefiting from the millions of people who have laid the infrastructure for their technology, and many of whom have done so at minimum wage. And they're benefiting from the work of immigrants who have been feeding that workforce, and they're benefiting from all of these things that allow them to get leverage, right?
Hmm.
Like the
Hmm.
leverage they're getting is the labor of other people, is what it is. And
Hmm.
the benefits they are receiving are disproportionate to the labor that is put out so that they can make that much money.
Hmm.
It's not just like they're genius enough that they make that much money. So,
Right. It's
and
actually a matter of luck.
and also we have systems in our government that protect corporations, that give you patents so that other people can't, we have legal systems. We have all kinds of things in our system that protect their wealth as well, that protect their ability to make wealth, that protect their trademarks, that protect their business, all of those things that work to make them able to do that. We have a system. It's not that these people have on their own earned this much money. We have a
Hmm.
system, and the system is disproportionately benefiting some people in the system.
Hmm.
And much more so in the last 40 years, since corporate tax rates have been just absolutely decimated and slashed.
Hmm.
So, and they're the percentage that they're paying, when you know that somebody like Jeff Bezos like qualified for the COVID relief funds. Like, what?
Right.
The system's not working like it's supposed to work, guys.
Or maybe it is.
Right.
Maybe it's working exactly the way it's supposed to.
Yeah.
But I hear you
Uh-huh.
exactly. It's not working
Uh-huh.
for us.
No, no, it's not. Yeah, so
So
I
a
yeah.
friend of mine recently said that, and I know within this same conversation is always this kind of anti-government flavor too.
Hmm.
That what you brought up about, the individual, you need to just give as an individual, or,
Hmm.
take care of it individually. A friend of mine recently said a life-giving form of government, true democracy, a true democratic government, its purpose should be to accomplish the great, the larger things, the great things that we individually can't.
Hmm.
Purpose of a democratic government
Right.
is to organize us collectively to
Hmm.
accomplish the things that are too big for us to accomplish as individuals. And I
Hmm.
think poverty is one of those.
Hmm. Hmm. Oh, it's interesting. Um, yeah, I think
It's just
there's.
looking at us as, rather than the government. No, we're looking at us collectively or
Hmm.
individually. And we have
Hmm.
both lives, right? We have both
Right.
experiences. But we're not just in this by ourselves. Society is as much as we hated them in school, society is a group project, right? And we can collectively either do great good or we can collectively do great harm. And right
Hmm.
now, the collective
Hmm.
is an oligarchy that's being shaped by just a few people in the class who are participating or have. And I shouldn't say it that way because it's not like other people don't want to participate.
Hmm.
Like in school, I remember, writing on the shirt tails of people that were highly motivated to do the group project, right? But that's not what we have, and that's not the story every time in society. Sometimes that wealth is so leveraged, to use your language, is so leveraged that you and I don't have the ability to even participate and shape what direction our collective actions take. Our collective actions just benefit the few at the top.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it helps me, rather than thinking government versus to think collective versus individual.
Well, and regardless, I think if you are saying, well, then give to the poor yourself, like we're not saying don't give to the poor, obviously,
No,
but like
charity's
show me,
important.
yeah, but show me like a country in history that solved poverty by having almost no tax on the wealthy and then expecting the middle class or the ultra wealthy to just give benevolently
Right.
to the
But
people
what
who
was
are
it that Gene
poor.
Robinson said? You know, if someone is in the river in front of you drowning, then by all means pull them out. But at some point, you've got to
Yep.
walk up the stream and ask, why are so many people being thrown in the river to begin with?
No, that's exactly it. And I think one of I mean, if you listen to me talk for very long, I'm going to start talking about Abraham Heschel. I really appreciate his work very deeply, and he's talked a lot. He was a Jewish scholar. He also was a friend of MLK, marched with him at Selma, and was very involved in the civil rights movement. Lost a couple sisters to the Holocaust and other family. Someone who's deeply involved in justice work. And one of the things that he says when he's speaking about the prophets is when the prophets speak about the need. I don't know if you're catching that
No, it's
audio in the
okay.
background.
I love hearing kids in the background. Doesn't bother me a bit.
Okay. But when the prophets speak about the need to care for the poor, for the marginalized of their day, they don't tell you how to do it. They just say that it absolutely must be done.
Mm-hmm.
It's a moral argument that it's
Mm-hmm.
immoral not to do this.
Mm-hmm.
There is a moral imperative
That's
that
the
it get
point of this
done.
week's parable.
Yeah.
Not whether hell exists or not, but the moral obligation.
The moral obligation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like there's a moral imperative to care for the poor. And you got to figure out a way to do it. And they very much speak frequently to nations and to national identity in so doing. So it's like you can quibble about this or you can quibble about that, but the kind of approach that a lot of like American Christians like to take, like capital A American Christians like to take, is almost kind of acting as if like the free market system is the highest moral value,
Mm.
which we could also quibble about what that is. And I'm not saying markets shouldn't be free. I just think markets should be fair as well.
Right.
But to say
It
that
shouldn't
like,
just be the strongest get to eat the weak, because
yeah,
that's free.
laissez-faire, yeah, that's free. Free market systems don't even, if you want to be totally free, you're not even dealing with issues of violence that exist in the system to give some people leverage over others. So
Right.
like, anyway, almost like, but this kind of idea that a certain approach to economics is like the highest moral idea of the Bible, instead of like caring for the poor being like the,
The
the
highest. Yes.
highest economic idea,
Yeah.
and the most important economic idea. And especially if you look at how the system was set up when in the Hebrew Bible, when the Promised Land was received by the nation of Israel, the land was parceled out, and each family was given a piece of land. Now we don't know if it actually was followed through this way, but the system that's kind of like set up is one in which every family gets a piece of land, and
Sounds
they
like
can't
socialism to
and they
me.
can't lose it.
Right.
Yeah, so they own the means
It's
of
going to come back to
production.
them.
It's the means of production at the time was the land, right? And they can't lose it. They actually cannot lose it. Even if they sell it, it comes back to them in the year of Jubilee. It's
Right.
always going to be with them. So it sets a floor for how poor a family can ever become,
Mm-hmm.
and provides a means of sustenance in a society where that is like agrarian, and it creates a level of equality that is.
If things start to get too extreme and things like wealth becomes there's too much disparity there, that
Mhm.
Jubilee year resets it every so often.
Resets it every so often. Exactly. So it
Can
creates
you
this
imagine the
constraint.
screams if all the generational wealth in the U.S. was all of a sudden reset right now? I mean, that's what we're talking about.
Well, the formerly enslaved people wanted to reset when they were set
Yes.
when they were set free. They wanted to
Yes.
reset. They wanted to be given a place in the society. Instead, what they were given was like their own banking system that then was destroyed, and all of their even meager wealth was destroyed
Mhm.
shortly after. So yeah, like a reset would be
The
nice.
civil
Even
rights
Mhm,
movement won certain victories,
mhm.
but the short-lived sibling, which was the Poor People's Campaign, failed miserably.
Yeah,
It was not, I mean, MLK was assassinated, JFK was assassinated, Robert Kennedy was assassinated. They just took him out.
yeah, yeah,
Just took him out.
yeah.
But they were talking about this stuff even back then.
Hmm.
I'm thinking about too the Scandinavian countries
Hmm.
where people are taxed quite a bit more. But nobody there seems to mind
Hmm.
because they have health care, they have education, they have all these benefits from those taxes that aren't going to the wealthy. They're going to the actual commonwealth. They're benefiting the
Hmm.
people.
Yeah.
And the people in those countries are way happier than statistically than we are here in the US.
Hmm. Well, it's enormously stressful to be an American and have your family be one healthcare disaster away from bankruptcy, which is the
Yeah.
cause of 1 in 4 bankruptcies. It's and so many people living paycheck to paycheck. It's yeah, it's very difficult. One thing you've heard is like the social safety net is like the the family itself.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to be your own social safety net for if you have kids, like you have to be your own safety net for your kids. Like if something happens, you just have to figure it
Figure it
out,
out.
you know?
Yeah. Figure it out.
Yeah.
You
Hmm.
know, I'm thinking about the response to a true democracy or a true economically just system in our country. And I want to say in passing too, I don't think the Bible lifts up any economic system as
Hmm.
the ideal economic system. You know, I know the battle
Hmm.
between communism and socialism and capitalism and and mutualism and some of those other ones. The question the Bible simply asks of all economic systems is how are you providing for the poor?
Yep.
That's what it's asking.
Hmm.
Whatever your economic system, that's what you
Hmm.
have to test it by is how are you how are you taking care of the poor among you? Are you creating more wealth? Are you more poverty? Or are you taking care of them? And well, shoot, now I forgot where I was headed with all that. It's all right. I'll come
Well, I
back.
think it's important because you can get, you could read this and get lost in, for a lot of people, socialism is kind of a boogeyman, or
Right,
communism. And so you say, well, we can't do that, you know, we can't do
right.
that. So you get lost in that. And the truth is like, yeah, like you're 100% right. The Bible isn't saying this has to be your economic system. It has to be like democratic socialist, or it has to be like communist and free market,
Or even
whatever it has to
democratic
be,
communism, right?
or even democratic it doesn't, yeah, it's not saying any of those things, right? um it is saying there is no excuse for not taking care of the poor. That's all there is. And it mostly puts the onus of that on the rich,
Hmm.
not
Yeah,
not even the middle class. It mostly puts the onus of that on the rich. And
I know where I was going with it now. It just
yeah.
what you just said just clicked it again.
Hmm.
So there, we were moving in this direction. We were moving in this direction with the social gospel, with the New Deal. Um,
Oh yeah.
we were moving in that, but because of our misogyny and our racism,
Hmm.
we sacrificed
And
the,
homophobia,
and
transphobia.
homophobia. Yeah,
Hmm.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. We would rather be a country that suffers than share the wealth with those people. You know what I mean? That was our bias. That's why we stood against those social programs, because we would rather destroy democracy than allow
Hmm.
that to be true for all people, regardless of however different their lived experience may be than our own. Right?
Oh
That
yeah.
we, you know what I'm saying? And so it really comes down to the fact that all of those biases and prejudices and isms, what they end up doing is actually hurting the people who hold on to them. And I'm thinking of those in the last election. this is what we have now because you couldn't vote for someone else. Now you're stuck for whatever biases or whatever reasons you had. I'm not talking about policy differences. Come
Hmm.
on now. You're really going to tell me it was about policy? No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. It was about much deeper biases that we have, right? But
Hmm.
because they won the day, those biases won the day. Now we have a system where the person and the group that is in charge, we're about to see those who do have health care, talking about the Affordable Health Care Act, we're about to see that become exponentially more expensive next year. By next November, after next November, we're about to see thousands kicked off of Medicare. We're about all again while giving tax cuts to the rich. We're about to see life get exponentially economically harder for
Hmm.
us because we wouldn't share with people who aren't like us.
Tariffs are also a way of disproportionately taxing the
Yes,
poor.
yes,
Hmm. Yeah,
yes.
because poor people
And we
tend
haven't
to.
felt that yet because corporate
Oh,
America is still, paying for those to kind of bearing the cost of those tariffs, but they're not going to keep doing that for much longer.
yeah, yeah. I
It's going
mean,
to have an effect.
yeah, yeah. I see it. I mean, I just things are getting more expensive. I just see it every day
Mm-hmm.
myself. So, um, yeah, a question I've actually been asking myself recently, Herb, is can if you were to actually get rid of all the isms, get rid of get rid of this system that says this whole group of people is a group to be feared, that
Mm-hmm.
is against us and that is going to destroy us, and we need to get rid of them. If you could actually get rid of the isms, the
Mm-hmm.
racism, the sexism, the homophobia, transphobia, like all those things.
Transphobia and migrant phobia, those are the two big
Yeah,
ones right now.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Could authoritarianism ever take hold?
I have to chew on that. What do you think?
I don't know. I feel like I'd like to really talk to an expert about it because I realize as
Are
I
you
look.
making a defense for phobias in order to
No, I'm saying
preserve
if you could get,
democracy?
yeah, if you could, no, if you could get rid of those things, could authoritarians ever gain control?
Oh, because authoritarians need to make you
They
afraid
need
of the
to make you
other.
afraid of an enemy in order to seize power.
So if we cut scapegoating off at the knees,
Yeah, exactly.
isn't that the greatest inoculation or immunization against authoritarianism? Is that what you're asking? Because I love
Yes.
that
No,
idea.
that's what I'm saying. No,
Okay.
that's what I'm saying. You thought I
Woo!
had it the other way around. Yeah, no, yeah, because what it is, it's like we have this terrible enemy. And because we have this
Mm,
terrible enemy who is going to destroy you, you have to give me the power to destroy that enemy. You
mhm,
have to give me the power to destroy that enemy because
mhm.
they are they are coming for you. And I recently heard an interview with someone who's what are they calling themselves? NatCons, National Conservative, which is pretty close, pretty ideologically. They require some pretty fine definitions to try to get around some of the ideology of like blood and soil that was behind Nazi
Mhm,
Germany.
mhm.
That it's the people who are from here who deserve to be. They're very close to that.
So they're
Enough's
pro-indigenous communities? Is that what they?
somehow not. Anyway, yeah. So as I was listening to someone very central in that movement saying, and they were saying that, where did my thought just go? It just went away. See, this is why I wish we
It
did a little
happened to
more.
me 5 minutes ago. It'll come back. I promise.
Oh, I know what they were saying. They were
There it is.
saying that they were saying all these libs and and left wingers and liberals and all these people. He said at the base of all that really is Marxism, and Marxism is inherently violent, and it's saying that we need to class warfare, and it's a violent idea that we have to like eat the rich kind of a thing, right? He was saying, no matter what it sounds like, Like at the base of it
Yeah,
is a
no matter what it sounds like. I
yeah.
love how they throw that in there.
Yeah, I mean, I might have thrown that one in there, but
Okay. Don't believe
yeah.
what your eyes see.
But he got pretty close to saying that. You know, it's like, really, I mean, it sounds good sometimes, but really what they're saying is at the base, class warfare, violent class warfare to destroy the rich. And I was just thinking, this is it. Like this is a way of vilifying the enemy and saying we don't have to listen to what they say because we know what they really say and we know what they
Hmm.
really mean. And so we just
And
need
this would
to,
benefit everybody.
right. And the argument was because those people are so terrible. This is the legitimate argument that he made. Because these people are so terrible, Donald Trump needs to take this power because
Wow.
he needs to defeat it before it destroys our country.
Wow.
He needs to defeat this Marxism before it destroys our country. And then after that, it will become a much more tolerant society after we have given all of our power away. I I don't know, it was
Yeah.
like so on the nose. It was so on the nose. And that's what got me thinking about like, you know, if there had been no transphobia card to play,
Mm.
if it just hadn't been there, which a lot of people were swayed.
Including Christians.
Oh, especially, yeah. If there had been no transphobia card to play, no evil
Migrant card to play.
refugees
Yeah.
eating your pets card to
Right.
play, you know, um, how much success would there be? So it just makes like if we actually cared more for one another and if we were able to and I honestly I'm not sure that it's even possible, but if we were to banish the xenophobia and fear of the other, could authoritarianism ever take hold?
Yeah. Would it ever have the legs to get up?
Hmm.
Yeah. I like that. That's a new thought for me. So, needless to say, I think the parable of the rich man and Lazarus, although it uses the worldview of the society for which that story was created,
Hmm.
the moral obligation that it places on those who have more than what they need to take care of those whose needs are not being met, I think is still just as relevant as it was back then. I mean, you brought up the boogeyman of Marxism, each according to their ability and each according to their need, giving according to their ability and receiving according to their need
Hmm.
doesn't have its foundation in Karl Marx. That's the book of Acts. Each gave as they were able and they received according to their need. And that you can call that Marxism all day long, but the first person to say it in that context was the author of the book of Acts, not Karl Marx. This is New Testament Jesus following economics, where we choose whatever economic system we have to prioritize above all else eliminating poverty.
It doesn't matter what your economic system is in doing so. The Bible is actually quite unflinching in the idea that you have to do it.
Yeah. It's a war on poverty, is what it's supposed to be.
Instead of a war on the poor.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
Well, any closing thoughts this week? At least this has been good. This has been good. It's not really about the afterlife. It's about something much more relevant. Any closing thoughts this week on Rich Man and Lazarus?
Yeah, I think also not to underscore, like, I don't remember what the process is, but to dress in purple and fine linen at that time, this is a wildly wealthy person.
Yeah.
This is
And
a wildly.
that fine linen was underwear, and only the wealthiest people wore underwear.
Mhm.
I know that's weird, but that's the historical fact in that little
Yeah, yeah.
description. The fine linen they're talking about before the fruit of the looms.
This is basically somebody who has money to throw away.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Yes, superfluous wealth.
Mhm. Mhm.
And all Lazarus wants to do is to satisfy his hunger with what fell from the rich man's table. Just give me the crumbs.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for the discussion, Alicia.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for watching this week. Um, Give us a shout out, Alicia. Tell us about your book again.
Oh, yes. The Bible and LGBTQ Adventists, a theological conversation about same sex marriage, gender, and identity.
Perfect. And where can we find that?
It's on Amazon.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
Excellent. And as always, I want to say a quick thank you to all of our supporters out there for Renewed Heart Ministries. If you'd like to join them in supporting Renewed Heart Ministries work, you can do so by going to renewedheartministries.com and clicking donate. Next week, Alicia, I am so excited for our topic. I'm disappointed that's going to be our last episode together, but our topic, we're going to go out with a bang. And the topic is the most pro slavery passage in the Gospels. It's what the
Yeah.
lectionary throws
Let me
at
at it.
us.
Let me at it.
And we're going to talk about Christianity, slavery, and are there any lessons in that history for those who are promoting LGBTQ affirmation and inclusion? So tune in next week, everyone, for another thought provoking discussion. Sure, you won't want to miss it. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Bye.